Agriculture on the move.
Agricole mouvement.
Agriculture on the move.
Agricole en mouvement.
Agriculture on the move.
Agricole en mouvement.
Agriculture on the move.
Agricole en mouvement.
Hello again and welcome to the program Agriculture on the Move. Thank you for viewing. My name is Phillip Sydney. Today we are discussing apiculture, really the rearing of bees for honey production. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to my two guests, Mr. Paul Sheppard, who is an international trainer in beekeeping, and Mr. William Antoine, who is the president of the Mille Fleure Honey Producers Cooperative. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Sheppard, I want to start off with you. Give us a background about you, where you're from, and how you got into, as a bee trainer.
I am originally from Trinidad, and I've been moving all over the world. I've lived in California, United States, and presently live in North Carolina. But I also live and work in St. Lucia part of the year. But I've been interested in beekeeping. I've been a beekeeper since 1984 in Trinidad, and ran into Africanized bees and learned a lot in 1 minute.
Okay.
Yeah, because the amount of stings I got in that 1 minute taught me enough for quite a few years.
Okay, great.
So I'm here now in St. Lucia, and I'm helping with training beekeepers here. I work with about 40 trainees in Belmont last year, and this year I'm working with the farmers with disabilities down in Ballenbush.
Okay. When you say disabilities, explain.
The gentlemen and ladies are challenged by physical disabilities such as missing limbs, polio problems earlier.
Okay.
So they, but they're making efforts to rear honeybees and produce honey and wax and pollen and propolis and all these sort of things.
So are you financed by some organization to come here and to impart knowledge?
Yes, last year we got funding from the SSDF to teach the farmers in Belmont. And this year we're being funded by Jeff, the Global Environmental Fund, to work with the farmers with disabilities.
Okay.
And we are also going to be doing, for the first time in St. Lucia, a research project that involves comparing natural beekeeping methods versus the more commercial type of beekeeping methods. Because we sincerely believe, and I am a strong proponent of this, is that natural beekeeping is the thing that St. Lucia is going to do, and it's going to be very, very beneficial for this country.
Okay. Vavan, Mr. Antoine, alias
Vavan.
Vavan.
Because everybody knows me as Vavan.
Vavan, as president and receiving that kind of training, how beneficial has it been to you and your farmers?
Okay, one of the things, I had an opportunity, though I was not on the project with Paul, but I had an opportunity to work with him on the Belmont project. And I think I learned quite a bit. Because when you're doing basic thing and you don't have the scientific part of it, I learned a lot of the scientific part with Paul. So it benefit me a lot, and it has a lot to benefit for St. Lucia.
Okay, but from your cooperative, your members have not been privileged to have that training?
No, not all of them.
So how soon was that going to be happening?
As soon as we settle down, because we are just starting to change things around. So when we settle down, I think Paul will be on board with us, and he's willing to be involved with us, because definitely, I think he's the future for our beekeeping in St. Lucia all the time.
Paul, so what it is that you're imparting to the St. Lucia beekeepers?
Well, as I said, I'm really interested in natural beekeeping. I should tell you that I've just come back from St. Croix, where they had the Beekeeping Congress and College, the Caribbean Beekeeping Congress and College. A lot of people from all over the world were there. Dr. Jamie Ellis from the University of Florida, and a lot of master beekeepers from Florida were down there, as well as people from the United Kingdom, in particular Nicola Bradbury from Bees for Development, which is an international funding organization. At least they help people get funds. What came out of that entire thing that I really came back here and would like to tell St. Lucia is that the entire Caribbean is now experiencing or going through a transition that everybody is moving into natural beekeeping. We have watched what has happened in America with losses of 50% due to colony collapse disorder and many other problems. A lot to do with how beekeepers have been keeping bees. And everybody in the Caribbean and different Caribbean islands, Grenada, Dominica, St. Kitts, everyone is talking about the fact that they are not using treatments. They are just letting their bees get accustomed to the varroa mites. And we have noticed that it can happen here in the Caribbean. We think that producing natural products from bees, like honey and wax and propolis and pollen, is the way that we can, is a product that will have value for the whole Caribbean, not only St. Lucia. And in 2016, St. Lucia is going to host, at least we are hoping. The Fleure group is the one that's going to have to push this. But I invited the college and the Congress to come to St. Lucia in 2016 to have the first natural beekeeping college and congress. St. Lucia would therefore be spearheading the natural beekeeping trend.
Well, you see, I'm getting, okay, explain a bit, go into a little bit detail here in terms of when you talk about natural, what is the other side of it?
Okay, well, natural versus really commercial beekeeping. Commercial beekeeping is like taking bees and getting them to produce honey for just to sell, you know, they treat them with chemicals. They kill the drones because drones are, you know, a lot of people say drones are just they're lazy doing nothing and they're just taking up honey. They only have one time in their life that they're ever any good, and that is when they mate with the queen. And this is true to a certain extent, but they are very important for the genetic diversity of the bees. You know, and so we are talking about keeping the bees as naturally as we can, allowing them to expand in more than one brood chamber, not compress them into one particular chamber and then put a queen excluder. We're trying to not use queen excluders. Queen excluders allow the worker bees to pass, but they don't allow the queen to come through to lay. So you separate your honey chamber from your brood chamber. What we're talking about is trying to get the brood chamber to allow it to expand and let the bees build as many bees and produce as many bees as they want. As many strength for bees is health. We look at the honeybee as a superorganism. Like we are composed of cells and bones and skin and all that sort of thing. Bees have a very similar thing. If you look at them from a superorganism sort of thing, all the different bees are like little cells. The wax foundation is like the skeleton of the bee. You know, the whole hive is like the skin because they produce propolis and they seal the entire inside of the hive. Bees have been around for 40 million years. Bees know more about bees than people. You know, we want them to do whatever they want to do, not try to direct them as much. A lot of agriculture is trying to do in every part of agriculture, you know, animals, crops. They're trying to make more out of what they have. But we are trying to say, no, let the bees do what they do naturally, become healthy, become stronger. Population is strength. Not just the population of each individual hive, but the population like nationally, you know. You know, the queen mates in the air with 15, 16 drones. You know, you want genetic diversity is what helps the next generation resist things like climate change, you know, blooming at a different time, also, you know, weather patterns, troughs and hurricanes. These are the things that we are looking at. It is much more sustainable to have natural beekeeping than it is to push the commercial side of it.
So what do you find happening here in St. Lucia to date?
Well, my friend here, Vavan, is not going to like what I'm going to say, but a lot of beekeepers here are pushing the honey production only. So what they have is one deep chamber, and then they have a queen excluder, and then they have another deep chamber on top of that, which becomes the super. That's where the bees will put the honey. So what's happening now is that bottom chamber gets packed. As soon as it gets packed, the bees want to swarm. They want to get out of there. They want to split one time. So unless you're very skilled, and a lot of the beekeepers don't have that level, you have to go back in that hive a lot and take care of it, which is cost. Every time you have to go to your hives, you know, it's all that sort of stuff. What we would like to see is them to have at least 2 deeps and then maybe put the excluder.
Okay.
We have to think about, you know, okay, natural beekeeping, but we also have to think about, look, people need to survive, you know. There's got to be this sort of like happy medium, you know.
Middle of the road
Yeah.
kind of thing.
And it will be very difficult for some of the big commercial beekeepers here to transition from what they have right now to natural beekeeping, because they'll run up against a lot of changes and losses.
Yeah.
And in this respect, we think that the government should be able to support that change, or there should be systems in place for that change to take place, you know. But everybody, this is a national agreement. Everyone has to agree.
Okay.
Because you can't have a couple of fellas going
One way.
one way and a couple of fellas going the other way.
And
Hold that point. We are due for a break. You're watching Agriculture on the Move. We'll be right back.
Agriculture, one of the pillars of St. Lucia's economic development, creating opportunities for earning a living for the farmer and his family. From the field to the kitchen, the St. Lucians are finding creative ways of using fruits, crops, and vegetables grown locally, from local seasonings to special brews, from aquaculture to the cultivation of local herbs for export. A strong agriculture industry strengthens the economy. The country needs your support, so buy local.
Welcome back to the program, Agriculture on the Move. Vavan, with all what Paul has said, where are you all now with honey production in St. Lucia based on what he's saying? Do you all need more of his training procedures to help you all to get back on the standard based on where you are now?
yes, I will say yes, brother man, because one of the things, as he said, we have some large beekeepers on the island, and to do these changes, they're going to lose a lot. And as he said, if we could get support, it will help us.
So
to get there.
what kind of support is required?
Because if to get to a normal, do your normal thing, if you have 100 hives, maybe you might survive about 75 out of the 100 hives.
Okay.
Or we can call it a 50-50 thing. Are you going to support that, Paul?
Yeah, there would be definitely some challenges changing, you know. But the biggest change is the mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
Once the mind is changed, you know.
But how is this going to result in some positive results in the end in terms of finance or income? How is that going to work out? How long is it going to take?
Okay, thanks for asking those questions. First of all, we cannot compete in the Caribbean with Turkey and Argentina and Brazil and, you know, Asia for producing honey. They produce millions of pounds of honey, and I don't know if how much the Caribbean can actually produce. I have never done a whole calculation, but we can't compete with them for honey, and that's being sold in the United States for about $2 a pound. You know, we're getting much more for our honey here. However, regionally there are markets. But how we can compete is by producing a product that is certified natural. Certified natural means niche honey. Niche honey will have a higher value, you know. So I should tell you this, in 2003, one of the top beekeepers in the United States, Dennis Van Engelsdorp, wrote a document about St. Lucia. And he said the potential for beekeeping here is close to 25 million US dollars a year. And I can verify that by my calculations. If we took half this country and put, took half the acreage, it's 238 square miles, and you took half of that, and you said, okay, to every acre, I'm going to have at least one hive. Okay, we could have 75,000 hives on this island. By of course, it will take 7 to 10 years to reach that kind of level. The beauty about bees is that bees divide on their own. They multiply. One hive this year, next year can give you 4. Depending on how healthy the bees are and that sort of stuff. So there is great potential for this country to become a honey producer. And it would bring in a lot more money from things like pure wax. They're looking for it in the cosmetic industry. Pollen, they're looking for it in the health industry. Propolis, it's a antibiotic, antifungal remedy that can be used. They're now taking care of that and using it internationally in health. There's mead. There's help me.
Royal
so many
jelly,
things.
royal jelly,
jelly.
propolis, bee bread. There's so many. Because something a doctor was saying, the honey is the last end of beekeeping.
Okay.
It is the cheapest thing in beekeeping when it comes to beekeeping.
Okay.
Now,
But let me ask you, the other thing, Vavan, what has to do with the extension side of it, the people who are supposed to assist you from the ministry? Are you getting that
No.
assistance? So what is required? What are your challenges there?
I mean, whenever you have an industry, there is somebody in the government to represent you. And an industry that developing as the beekeeper, for instance, I'm trying to reach my extension officer. I think he's out of the island. And he's the only extension officer representing over 200 beekeepers island-wide.
So how many extension officers do you think ideally you would need to ensure that you'll get that sort of representation?
3 or 5.
Between 3 to 5?
Yeah.
And have you discussed it with the ministry? Have you had any discussion to ensure that happens, to take you out from where you are to the next level?
I have speak to the PS, and we was not even asking the 5, just 1 for the time being. And they said no funding, blah, 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 so. And we still with 1, and he's not even assigned fully and solely to beekeeping. Okay. I think he's in poultry doing something. So. But
Paul, I mean, since you've been here in St. Lucia, you've been going around and you've seen the challenges, what you think, are the areas required to ensure that beekeepers in St. Lucia move from point A to point B?
Okay, well, number 1 is training.
Okay.
Number 2 is support.
Now, when you say training, are you saying training for the beekeepers and extension officers?
Yes, but however, there are extension officers here that are highly qualified, and they could help with the training. Definitely you need, because remember we're talking about natural beekeeping, which is a completely different, well, it's not completely different, but it has changes and different ways of approaching the bees, more with love than with just, I want your honey, that sort of stuff. So those sort of changes can be made. And definitely the trainers, we need to train trainers.
Trainers, yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
so this is always going to be a growing thing. The other thing we need to do is protect the environment.
That's right.
We have to look at things like the campeche. This is a wonderful plant. It's not just a
tree.
Yeah, a lot of people, you say, what would you do if you had a campeche in your yard?
Cut it down.
So I'll cut it down and make charcoal.
Make some
But campeche may be the thing in St. Lucia that could actually save this country quite a lot. In New Zealand, I think it is, New Zealand, they produce something called Manuka honey. Okay. A small jar of Manuka honey, because it has very medicinal curative abilities, sells for $40 US. Wow. The campeche has all kinds of qualities. I think it has medicinal qualities, and I know a lot more people know a lot more about it than I do. It is used for dyes, and it produces quite a lot of wonderful honey that we would like to test and see if what it is, because if we
what
come
we
out
can
with
get from
something
it, yeah, out of
similar to the manuka, I'm not sure how close, but boy, you're talking.
But apart from the capesh, what other trees that you think that can assist in the production of honey?
Well, William could tell you a little bit more about those.
You see, St. Lucia is green, and all our tree does flower in the season. But capesh, T-bomb, glory cedar, mangoes, just baguier. We have something, one of the best.
And we have all of that here.
Yeah, ackee, Jamaican ackee, our local ackee, downs, just
Chenet.
name it, chenet, just name it. All our trees and mangoes, all our trees has a potential. We have some white-billed flowers on the street side. You can see morning that filled with bees. Even the red flowers, you see, they use it for edges, hedges.
Yes.
Yeah, these things is very good. We agree.
So we have enough.
Everything.
More
but we
than.
still want to plant more. But what happened? The last time with Mabia Development Project, they had given us some trees to plant, and they say, well, hey, it's going to bear flower out of the season. But when they adapt to the climate we have there, it gets back to our normal. So when we say we want to input other flowers for out of season, they will still adapt to our weather.
Okay. Well, we are due further the break. You're watching Agriculture on the Move. Stay tuned.
Agriculture, one of the pillars of St. Lucia's economic development, creating opportunities for earning a living for the farmer and his family. From the field to the kitchen, the St. Lucians are finding creative ways of using fruits, crops, and vegetables grown locally, from local seasonings to special brews, from aquaculture to the cultivation of local herbs for export. A strong agriculture industry strengthens the economy. The country needs your support, so buy local.
Welcome back to the program. Paul, okay, now you are here in St. Lucia, you've seen the many challenges, you've seen the potential. With that new methodology that you have come on stream with, give me a time frame where you figure that the St. Lucia beekeepers can adapt and move forward.
Well, I would say that it takes about a year of learning, because beekeeping is an art as well as a science. It takes about a year of learning and getting accustomed to doing certain things. But if you start at the bottom and you put in standards and rules, and you work from those standards and rules, like for example, you don't kill the drones, you let the bees build their own wax, you raise natural queens, that sort of, not artificially inseminated queens, you don't import bees into this country. Very, very important thing that we must, we must control here. You manage honey prices. Then I could say that, a year, 2 years, we could transition the learning experience over to the natural beekeeping and build up the industry in 7 to 10 years, be a highly productive. And the thing about beekeeping is that you don't have to buy a piece of land. In this thing, you can use your neighbor's land.
You can be a landless farmer.
You could be landless, And the beauty is that St. Lucia still has the Italian bees, which are docile. We really don't want the Africanized bee here, because it will really affect beekeeping. People have a bad idea about bees. They call the bees the killer bees and all that sort of stuff. But the type of bee that we have here is the Italian bee, which is a lot more gentle and easier to work with. Of course, if you catch them on the wrong day,
yes, of course,
and you're taking their honey, they're not pleased with
you.
You can, yes. So I believe within about 10 years, that we could actually have this industry up and running, and it has so many other aspects, because forestry has to get involved. That's right. Marketing, international marketing, tourism as well can be. People all over the world want to come to a beautiful island that has everybody's interested in the environment. You know, think of what that would sell like on the market.
Well, what do you have to say?
Yeah, okay, Brahman, one of the things, the question you put to Paul, we have about 40 new beekeepers on the island right now. Paul did some training and we did some training. And one of our conditions is to go natural beekeeper with them, start them naturally. So they, before they reach to that standard, if we grow up with them natural, when they reach up there, they wouldn't have to use any chemical, anything like that.
The question of cost, right? That's, I think, most important. The cost of production. If a new beekeeper comes on stream, what is required? What sort of cost is required from the start off?
Well, that's a very good question also, because there are different types of systems. There's the Langstroth hive system, which is the traditional boxes, one on top of the other that you've seen. Now, to get involved in that, it's going to cost you, with training and a bee suit and everything, initially it costs you about 2,000 EC dollars, I would say, to initially get started. But you know, the thing is that after you have your first set of bees, you no longer have to buy bees, because now you will always get bees, but you have to build boxes. And so there will be a cost involved in that. But there are other systems of beekeeping, like the top bar hives, which is, you don't have to buy more boxes. You build one box, and it's horizontal beekeeping rather than vertical beekeeping. And there's skips, like making things out of straw. There's making top bar hives out of things like bamboo and mud, which would be a very, very small cost, 25 to 30 EC dollars to set up one, you know. And I mean, people are doing this all over the world. In Africa, they're rearing bees in logs. Although that is not the system we want to go with here, because I think we are still advanced enough, a country developed enough, that we could do things like top bar hives, the Langstroth hives, and there's a new type of hive called the Perron hive, where you don't actually go into the brood chamber ever, never. You only work above the bees. And you know, these are systems that we think can work here. And the experiment should show this. The research thing that we're going to do should show, you know, what natural beekeeping can do versus the commercial beekeeping, and which is more economical.
You see, with the commercial beekeeping, you just make it a little easier to harvest, you know, when it comes to harvest. But with the top bar, you can have a lot of wax, produce a lot of wax, because you don't replace that wax back to them. They keep on building, use their gland cell to build.
At this stage now, honey is in demand in St. Lucia. Why? There's no honey, right?
I think we don't have enough bees on the island. That's what I would say.
So what's going to happen? I mean, are you all working towards?
Yeah, we are working to.
So how soon you think you'll get back on a level?
It will take a little while, because the demand, what I have noticed, the demand is very high. And because
and
whenever...
And your selling price is very high too.
Okay, let me try and explain
quickly.
That. Our selling price is not high on the beekeeper part. But when you come to us, you said, hey, give us 12 bottles of honey. We sell 12 bottles of honey for you at a price. And you went out there, you want to sell it at double the price you get it from. It will always, and we have no control over it. You know?
Final words from you, sir?
Well, I'm looking forward to 2016 and hoping that we get the support from all the ministries and the government and all the organizations here in St. Lucia, that we will have the 2016 Natural Beekeeping Conference and College here. I think it will make a huge impression on the world and for St. Lucia.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Mr. Paul Sheppard, thank you. Thank you, Vavan, for coming here. And I'm hoping that your members will increase and understand that they need to adopt the new teachings from Mr. Sheppard. Thanks again. You've been watching Agriculture on the Move. We hope that you have enjoyed the program. Call us anytime if you need some more information. Go to your Extension Office for more information. From me, Phillip Sydney, on behalf of the Ministry of Agriculture, I'm saying goodbye and see you again.
Agriculture on the Move.
Agricole en mouvement.
Agriculture on the Move.
Agricole en mouvement.
Agriculture on the Move.
Agricole en mouvement.
Agriculture on the Move.
Agricole en mouvement.